Welcome to another five-star edition of Props to Consider, then maybe bet. UFC 284, Makhachev versus Volkanowski. I am your host, Lou Betya of the MMA Engine. Thank you for joining us. Whenever you're watching this, probably Wednesday night, Thursday morning, anytime up to the event. Last week, quick recap, little hit or miss on some of them, but man, Paul Dahl came through with Devin Clark decision at plus 550. Great hit to end the night. And that's going to segue into my guest. So without further ado, I'm bringing on my friend SharkStuh, who is a DFS guy for the most part, but every week he always fires one free bet out, and it's never massively chalky. And if he believes it, I listen. And what was your free bet that you gave out last week?
It just happened to be,
Clark.
yeah, it just happened to be Devin Clark. And I was telling people, I'm like, guys, I've never backed Devin Clark in the UFC ever, but it's like, if he's gonna win a fight, this is the type of matchup where he would win it because, he's gonna have that grappling, wrestling advantage over this guy. And Da Un Jung is not that guy that like puts out a lot of volume on tape. And I mean, Devin Clark was even getting the better of him on the striking exchanges. So I mean, that bet was just amazing. He won 30-27 across the board. I mean, I can't ask for any more from a plus 210 underdog, Lou. I mean, that was one of my favorite free plays that I've given out in a while.
He looked great. I was big on Fugit as a dog. I had a poke on him by sub. He mounted him. I'm like, man, he's just not going to stop punching him. He's not even going to go for the sub. But sucks the deep prop. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Welcome. I talk to Shark a lot, and we talk about DFS. We talk about poker a lot, actually. But I want to set up that Shark was one of the guys. I know John Kelly gets a lot of the credit, and I'm a John Kelly guy. But Shark was one of the guys against late swap, like one of those people that was anti. Now, you as a DFS player, for those that watch my shows, there's some DFS players here. I play more DFS than I think people realize, more because I talk about the props and the betting sides. And usually my host, like Monk on my Friday show, is a DFS guy. So I don't get to dust off the DFS chops a lot. But tell the people, A, why it bothered you, like the whole why they even did it in the first place. And B, is there a way it could work on the rare instances when a fight gets canceled during a card?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really only bothered me in that, like, the way that they, like, implemented it, it was just, as soon as fights would start, you could still late swap fighters out after the fight was happening. And I know that they would void your lineup if that happened, but that just leads to later problems where, like, they're losing money for the prize, their total prize pool. They're not even filling these contests because a lot of people were against late swap in MMA. And another reason why it didn't really work is because, like, these people that max enter these big contests, they could literally have you covered from every kind of combination. Like, let's say they have 150 lineups and they're doing really well in the beginning. They have you covered everywhere. So if you're a guy that only has like 5 to 10 lineups, you're basically drawing dead. You need to hope that you like hit the nuts before the slate even locked, because you're not going to catch up to these guys that have you covered from those combinations that they might have. So it just favored the people that could enter more lineups. And I know that, like, you could still win even with that late swap option, like just entering 5 to 10 lineups. You just needed to be perfect. Like, you need to be more than perfect. So it just wasn't a good experience for customers, and I really didn't like it. And you saw it in the contest. The contests were getting smaller and smaller. And then all of a sudden we have like this random card at, like, it started at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it filled right away as soon as they got rid of late swap. So they made the right decision, Lou.
Yeah, I'm in the Ironman competition with Gordo, so it's just single entries. But yeah, Devin Clark helped me take fifth. That's
You'll love to see it.
Two fifth places in a row. Well, I had Fugit and I had him, so my dogs came through. But Park got me like not the Iron Turtle, but the other one got me like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, I had Choi. It doesn't matter. I did all right.
Oh,
but
Choi.
Like,
yeah. I had
but
Choi
I wanted
also.
to give you credit because Clark as a dog was like on a slate where we didn't have a lot of knowns. You're taking some guesses here. People were like, I think Tululan was like crazy high owned. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? But without further ado, anybody watching this, please, if you can, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. If you're watching for the first time, this show is not super analysis of fights. We are targeting crazy props, or as the guys on this channel call them, Lou bets. And we will end with a flourish with the Yambag special, which is a point deduction bet. Shark, why don't you start us off? What is the first prop? And tell the people that this is a little out of your specialty realm. I'm just glad you're on the show.
Yeah, I mean, but real quick, before we even get into the slate, I just want to congratulate your Philadelphia Eagles. They're competing in the Super Bowl this
Oh, I
Sunday.
am. Oh, sir, I am no Eagles fan, sir. I am a New York
Wh-
Giants fan.
Wait, you're not? Really?
I live in Philly.
Oh,
I moved. I'll be betting the Eagles. I'll tell you that right now. I'm gonna put aside my hatred of them. I'm gonna bet on them to win. But no. I figure if they win, then I can be happy like the rest of my asshole friends. And if
hmm
they lose and I lose money, then I'm miserable like them. So really that's the best way. Maybe I'm baking that into the line. That's the best way I can approach it. But no, I'm a Giants fan, man. And we're, whatever
Gotcha.
we are.
I that kind of
Thanks.
kills my whole that kind of kills my whole bit because I was about to like say, hey, if you guys win, can you guys not destroy your city this time? But
Well, as
but
long as they're going to grease the poles by like Saturday afternoon, all the poles will be greased and nobody's
yeah.
climbing on them. Like, yeah, it's some city that we live in. It is some city, Philadelphia.
hmm
That's
I
for
mean, you
sure.
you can't control the people that live in the city. They're just crazy. But getting into this slate, I guess I'll start with my number 5 pick, and I do want to tell people that I don't really do a lot of prop bets. I'm not going to be betting some of these props that I'm recommending to you guys right now, just because first of all, I don't even have access to some of them because in my sports book, like some of these props just aren't available to me, so I can't even bet them if I wanted to. And I usually focus on money lines and DFS. That's usually how I like attack slates. So. But I mean, there is one prop at the very end that I'm going to give that I'm definitely betting, and I really like it. So, but the first prop that I'm going to start with, I got it from one of my friends on Twitter, actually, Dagestan Poppy, and the only reason I'm shouting him out is because
He's a good dude. He's a good
yeah,
dude.
he's really good at what he does. The only reason I'm shouting him out right now is because I would have never even seen this prop. So it's actually the Randy Brown submission only prop at plus 150. And the reason I'm saying this is because I know that Jack Della Maddalena should be the favorite in this fight because like of what his upside is compared to like what Randy Brown's upside is. But we know that Randy Brown has a massive size and reach advantage here. We know that he's got a lot of experience advantages, like just the better overall MMA game compared to what we've seen from Jack Della Maddalena so far. But Jack Della Maddalena would probably light him up on the feet. So playing the submission only prop, I don't think that Jack Della actually has any kind of submission equity in this fight. So if I'm just getting Randy Brown submission only, the only way that I'm going to lose this bet is if Randy Brown gets subbed. I feel like the only way he gets subbed here is if it's like a club and sub kind of thing where he gets like knocked down and then choked out somehow. I just don't see it happening. I feel like either he gets knocked out, he might lose a decision, then you get your money back, or Randy Brown finds his way to that back and chokes out Jack Della Maddalena. So at plus 150, I feel like you'd be free rolling that bet. I wish I could bet it because I would if I could. But I feel like Randy Brown submission only prop at plus 150 is a pretty good bet.
So we were talking about this on one of the earlier shows, and that if you look at Jack Della, 2 of his fights, Angelusa had him in a sub, Amiv had him in a sub. So he's susceptible to getting caught. Now he's so strong that he's been fighting his way out, but I think this is a really interesting and good look. I think Brown has decision equity, but I do think the sub is really live and plus 1200 on the sub. I'm not going to give that out on the show necessarily, but plus 1200 is just to go outright on it is really not a bad look here for Brown. Like, especially because that's got to be his game plan is get the hell out of range and like get this to the ground or get him against the cage and get sneaky. I love it. Brown sub only plus 150. I love it. I can't believe I'm going to start with I have no split decisions on this card, by the way, which is, it's horrible.
I
I'm
do.
gonna have to, do you? I'm going to have to fix that by Friday, but let me start with one that I know she hasn't done at the UFC level. I'm going to play Loma KO plus 380. I don't like Elise Reed. I don't like her skill set. She made Sam Hughes look like fucking Khabib with the wrestling. So Loma, she's got 9 takedowns in her last 3 fights. One was against Loopy, which, obviously she wanted nothing to do with trying to get takedowns in that, but 4 against Denise Gomez in what was the best fight that had no business being a good fight. Like crazy entertaining fight. She had 4 takedowns in that one. She had 4 against Sam Hughes. I'm not playing MMA math with like Sam Hughes here, but Loma's shown a willingness to go to the takedowns. She's going to have to, I know she's got a reach disadvantage. I think her striking's a little more crisp. I mean, I don't know, like at least Reed's all right. If she has any like all right attribute, it would be the striking, but I think that Loma's going to get takedowns at will. I think she's going to go for ground and pound. And at plus 380, I would have liked a better number, But I think Loma is going to dominate this fight. Like, she's actually one of my favorite money line plays, and I never like to lay chalk with women's MMA, but I like her in money line. I think she's a sneaky DFS play. She's probably going to be really low owned, but I'm going to try the KO prop at plus 380 and immediately hate that I took this bet 2 minutes into the fight. Immediately hate it.
I actually really like that play, Lou, and I wanted to like throw some DFS talk in there because that's kind of more of my specialty, and I want to give nuggets where I can. Guys, I feel like an interesting strategy this week would be to fade the main event and actually play Loma in your lineups, because that will automatically differentiate you from the rest of your like competition.
Absolutely.
If you're in those GPP tournaments where you're like going against 40K other people, I mean, that's one way to start your lineup. Just don't play the main event. Like, assume Islam wins, but it's like a decision, and then hope that he doesn't score as much to like make the optimal lineup. But play Loma, who can definitely get a finish here, and no one's going to play Loma.
Yeah. What do you think her ownership's going to be? Like 6%, 10%?
I'd say like around 10-15%. I wouldn't say 6. If I got 6, I'd be like, I'd love that.
Yeah, I know. My partner on Friday, Monk, was on he said he was talking shit on me on their like DFS show that they do on Pub Sports, and he said, I can't wait to talk to Lou about how he's going to sell me on some of these bullshit low salary guys. I'm like, hey man, I'm the one doing tape. You're not you. Like, I will sell you on a few of them that I think there's a couple of guys that like I like the 20 max. Like if I'm going to play, I typically like doing the 20 max.
Mm-hmm.
It's within my budget. Like, look, I don't have to go crazy to do it. Like, and then I'm like level with the field. Like, nobody can like outmax me there. So, I think Loma, I don't know how much I'm going to get of her, but I might get at least. There's this one person we were going to talk about probably that I might go 100% of, but I think Loma, I got to get at least 50% of her in my lineups.
You don't even need to play that much to like get overweight on. If you played like 25-30%, you're already overweight on her. You're good to go.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, what's the next prop you got for us?
All right, the next prop, it's going to be a shout out to Timothy Trezano, who does these split decision props. Troyan, yeah, I'm not good with these names, Lou.
And by the way, him and I are like the co-kings of the split decision. Just want to let you know. Like,
so he doesn't get all the credit.
No, well, him and I are like the ones that like when we talk, we're like the ones crazy enough to like that's like almost our first thing we're looking at is like the splits. So
got you.
But if he's got one this week and I don't, then he's the king this week.
Yeah, so I mean, I talked to Tim a lot on Spaces about how these like split decision props work. Because at first, Lou, I was like, Tim, how do you project these fights to end in a split decision? Like, how are you doing this to where you're actually making money? Like, just betting a couple. I know.
Absolute strategy, yeah.
Of course there is. And he eventually, like he told me, he was like, dude, I'm not really projecting it. I'm just like looking at potential fights where it's like it looks closer than it might be. I know judging in MMA is not as good as it should be. So it's like these split decisions hit a lot more than you would think. And in this instance, I found 2 fights where I feel like, because he always told me, you don't bet a lot of money on these. You bet like, a quarter unit, a half unit. So I was thinking, okay, you take a 1 unit investment in these 2 fights. So you bet a quarter unit on all these 4 fighters to win by split decision. Tell me what you think of this. So Kulabau versus Bogdasarian. I feel like that fight in general is just going to be a very close competitive fight. And you don't need to pick the winner. You just bet a quarter unit on both of them, And as long as one of these hit out of the 4 that I'm about to give you, we're going to profit on it. So it's just a 1 unit investment. We're going to make more than a unit as long as one of these hit. And if 2 of them hit, we're going Sizzler. So I think Kulabau and Bogdasarian is going to be a close competitive fight. And I feel like if I were to pick a side, it would be the Bogdasarian side. But it could happen to Kulabau just because he's, in his hometown. And another thing about this card, it's like I don't really like a lot of Aussies on this card, but I do know that they get a lot of favorable decisions in their backyard. So I do like take that into consideration when we're talking about fights that go to decision and their decision equity. And the other fight that I was looking at, hang on, let me pull it up. Shane Young and Builder. So when I say this is a must win for Shane Young, this is a must win for Shane Young. If he does not win this fight, he is in deep shit. He's probably getting cut from the UFC, and he knows it. He's in his backyard. They're giving him a guy coming right off the Contender Series. He only has like a slight grappling advantage over him. I mean, Shane Young is like the clear superior striker, in my opinion. Blake Builder has a little bit of an advantage on the ground, so I feel like he can make it like close and competitive on the ground. But I mean, if Shane Young does not keep this fight standing, it's going to be close competitive. So I feel like that could end in a split decision also. So if you just take Blake Builder, Shane Young, and the other fight with Melsik Bagdasaryan, then you put a quarter unit on all 4 of those guys. I feel like one of them's going to hit, and if you hit one of those props, you're already profiting. So just take 1 unit to the side. You just need one of those to hit.
Plus 500 for the split and Kulabau Melsik, plus 900 Kulabau, plus 1,000 Melsik is that one. This is on DraftKings. And then the Young Builder one, it's plus 600 for the split, plus 1,000 Young, plus 1,200 for Blake Builder. I love them both. Just so you know, when I bet these, I also bet the quarter unit on the fight to end and split and get that double up. But it doesn't really, I mean, look, it's just an extra equity. Like if it hits, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
you pick your spots. I love both. I think I don't have a prop on the Kulabau Melsik one. This fight's been tough for me because I like watching Melsik Bagdasaryan, but Kulabau's kind of sneaky, but I think it goes the distance. Melsik becomes like the moment winner with the power and the leg kicks, and he fades a little bit. And Kulabau is going to be winning minutes, darting in and out. So I love that one. Young Builder is interesting. I actually favor Builder a little bit just because of Young's inactivity. But Young's, like you made the great point. Young is just, not only is he so superior in the striking, Builder has no striking defense. It doesn't even seem like he wants to have striking defense.
Young is more technical by far.
Absolutely. But he's been out for a long time. So I mean, Builder's still young, but inactivity worries me. But I think as the fight goes on, if Young wins the first round, then it gets really interesting for that split prop because I think Builder's going to be better late in the fight, especially if he gets the grappling going. But his grappling's kind of sloppy. He's good at takedowns and he's not good at control. So it's like, I don't know. He's an intriguing guy here, but I will move.
I'm just interested to see how Young, gets himself into this fight because I feel like he knows that if he does not win this fight, he's getting cut. So I feel like he's going to come out with his all.
I'm surprised he's even on the roster still. Like
Me
with
too.
all the purges they've been doing, like maybe they just kept him on. Like, I mean, Shannon Ross is on this goddamn card. So like, what do I know?
Yeah.
You know? All right. Let me move on to my next one.
Go ahead.
I know people are going to hate this one because I feel like but I feel like you kind of have to. And that's the Prado KO at plus 650.
Love it.
So the popular Twitter bet of the week is the Prado Malarkey under 2.5. Everybody's hitting this bet. I have reservations about it because one of my new rules that I'm doing is I'm trying not to bet ITD props to cheat a line to get a better number against undefeated regional fighters. I don't think Prado's technique's kind of sloppy, but he's never been finished and he's pretty decent at like absorbing punishment and coming forward. This is a big step up in competition. And I understand that, but nothing about his history has shown me, and he's fought like into the second rounds before. Nothing's shown me that he can get knocked out by Malarkey. I'm also not huge on Jamie Malarkey. Like he knocked out Kamaworthy, who stinks.
Yep.
He knocked out Devonta Smith, who was gassing horrendously, and then he couldn't finish the corpse of Michael Johnson, which is kind of a bad look in a fight that was way closer than it should have been. So I'm hesitant to bet the under because I feel like most of the under equity comes on the Prado side. If that's how I feel, I may as well just take the poke on Prado to win by KO at plus 650. So, or hold on, I might have had this wrong. Is it? Hold on, I might have written this down wrong. I know what I'm trying to do. Oh, sorry, not KO. Prado round 1 at plus 650. I think
the round 1. Okay.
I think and I'll finish on this. I think there's, and we tend to do this a lot when we analyze fights. I think there's a false narrative here that it's Prado round 1 or bust because Malarkey, has shown he can go for takedowns and can last in these fights. But again, Prado's never shown me. I mean, his tape is weird. Like he's faced really bad guys on the regionals. Like these guys are terrible. But Prado's never shown any liability in terms of wilting to damage. His cardio a little bit. And Malarkey is the kind of guy that can take him to deep water. But if you just like Malarkey to do that, I mean, I'd never take him at that money line, but I'd just be I'm a little scared off by the time props, my instincts. So I got to stick with my instincts here. I think Prado round 1 at plus 650. You're getting a really nice price for that. So worth a poke. And he's going to be popular in DFS, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like he's a popular underdog this week, and there's actually a play that I have later in this fight, but it's my, best play of the card, so I got to save that for later.
Excited. Well, it is your turn to go.
Alrighty. So I'm going to mention a play that I already know that people aren't going to like because I already know most people are on the other side of me. I'm on the Menifield KO prop this week. I feel like you like it. You like okay? I like it, Lou. We're on the same page here. So I don't think that Jimmy Crute is actually as good as people think that he is, and I know that he has some good ground skills. Like when he actually gets the fight down, he has some good ground skills. But he's also been submitted by guys like Misha Serkinov, in his last two fights. And I'm glad that he took time off because he had a serious injury, he had a serious surgery, and then he also got knocked out by Jamal Hill. But he also took a year off after that happened. So I'm actually happy that he was able to do that and heal his brain up, hopefully work on his skills, get healthy. But going into this fight against Alonzo Menifield, I feel like that Jimmy Crute has never shown the best chin. He's been dropped in many of his fights, and he hasn't shown the best durability either. Like when he gets dropped, he normally does not get back up. It's normally like the fight's about to end as soon as he gets dropped. And I'm just not sold that Jimmy Crute has potential to be going up in this division any further. So I'm gonna go with the Alonzo Menifield knockout. I noted that like a lot of people were saying that Alonzo Menifield really hasn't beaten anyone lately. I mean, like he's beaten frauds like Serkinov and that other fraud. What was his name? Mazarov, that guy that changed his name a couple times and popped for steroids.
His record changed from the time we started the show
Yeah,
to right now.
yeah,
He has another
yeah.
2 losses in his record since.
Yeah, like his record, like literally that week that he was fighting changed like 4 or 5 times. You didn't know what it really was. You didn't know what his name really was. That guy was so fraudulent that even after he got knocked out by Menifield, he popped for steroids. It's amazing. Like he was trying to set a world record for
It's
being
like the
fraudulent.
cycle of nonsense. Like he hit
Yeah.
everything on the bingo card.
And the loss to William Knight was definitely not a good look, but I feel like Menifield has the power to knock out Crute early, so I do like the Menifield angle by knockout. But if we're talking about a fight that is in the third round, I might as well rip up that ticket because that ticket's not cashing.
Yeah, we talked about this in the panel. I was the only one on Menifield. I mean, you mentioned like Crute's liabilities. One thing you didn't mention is Crute's fight IQ is just so god
Oh yeah,
awful.
oh yeah.
That I said I made a case. There's a possibility that when the fight starts, Menifield could just stick his fist out and Crute may run head first into it to see if he's like, all right, my chin's fine. Like, and Menifield's takedown defense, like, I mean, it's 85%. Look, you say what you want about it at that level, like the level of guys he's faced going for takedowns, but it's still 85%. Like he can stuff takedowns, and it looks like he's working on that element of the game. So, like, I personally, I think Crute's best like path here is throw him on the ground, get on top, and go for a sub. But what I think Crute should do and what Crute thinks he should do are probably two very different things. I like the Menifield KO as well. All right, now I'm going to get.
I also think that people are like underrating the improvements that he's made lately. I know that he's not fighting the same competition that
He
Crute
has
fought. Like,
improved. He
yeah,
absolutely has
of
improved.
course he has. He's looked a lot better. Like his gas tank he's not just falling off a cliff after 5 minutes anymore. He's looked a lot better lately to me. So I do like the Menifield side here. I feel like he's going to catch him at some point in the first 2 rounds. But if we get to the third round, I'm going to be like, well, this isn't happening.
Yeah, probably, probably not, but I think the price is nice. I think it's plus 225 last I checked. It might be right around there. I think it's good. He's not getting a sub, I don't think. So, all right, now I'm going to get to one that I know people are going to hate as well. And this one's plus 1100. Don Sheinus round 1 against Jenkins. So I want to say this right now. I'm not super impressed with Jenkins. I think he's okay. I think his boxing's pretty, like, he's got better technique than Sheinus. Like, there's no doubt about it. Sheinus, but also Sadiq Youssef picked Sheinus in this fight. So I have a lot more confidence now that Sadiq and his unprofessional breakdowns picked Don Sheinus after their war, as he said. The one thing that I don't like that Jenkins does is he's a pretty slow starter. Even on the Contender Series, it seems like he's content to be patient. He's content to, like, not like Peter Yan, but like he's downloading data. Like I feel like he's getting his reads, and it takes him 3 to 5 minutes. Sheinus is going to be in his grill in 7 seconds because that's the only way this guy knows how to fight. Like reckless abandon, run across the cage, get this dude to the ground. It's hard to say how good Jenkins' takedown defense is, but what I know is I know how Sheinus is going to fight, and I do think Sheinus is very round 1 or bust here. I don't trust his cardio, and Jenkins has shown his cardio is decent. Like, so this thing starts the second round. I think it's just Jenkins picking him apart for 10 minutes. Maybe gets a late finish. But if Sheinus is going to win, it's round 1 and plus 1100 for his win condition. I mean, look, I call this the Guido Canetti bet. This is typically Guido Canetti's win condition. He did it to Matinho. He was plus 1,000. I'm like, wow, Matinho stinks. I'm going to take it. Then he knocked him out in like 2 minutes. So I don't love round one bets typically, and now I have 2 of them, but I don't know how Don Sheinus wins this outside the first round. So, and look, it's still a guy making his debut from the Contender Series, and he's a massive favorite. I never liked seeing that against Sheinus, who, I mean, look, he's not the most refined fighter. He's his regional tape. He's fought some cans, but he's he's got more experience, and I don't know. I just at least think the win condition is there. So round one, Sheinus. I'm looking at it. I have not gotten to it yet, but I'm intrigued for very small play there.
Yeah, when you're hitting props that size, Lou, you just sprinkle those. You're not trying to,
No,
throw.
not like it's
Yeah,
not a Vegas Dave,
yeah,
max.
whale play.
No, not like 20 units like on that, but not trying to break bet MMA tips. All right, I have one more on my end aside from the Yambags. How many do you have?
I have one more, and then I have my main play from the Prado fight, so we're perfect.
Let's go. What's next?
All right, next. I don't think people are going to like this because I've been seeing a lot of the opposite. Like, a lot of people are betting the under in this fight. Like, they don't think it's going to go the distance. I got Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski goes the distance for plus 145 because I feel like the way that Islam tries to finish a lot of these people, and I guess he could technically KO Volkanovski, the way he tries to finish a lot of these guys, it's usually by submission. When he gets people on the ground, it's a little different than Khabib. He's not trying to just beat you up on the ground. He's usually going for submissions. It's pretty hard to sub a guy with no neck, Lou. So a guy like Volkanovski that was just getting out of submissions left and right with Ortega, Ortega's like one of the most legit black belts that we have in the UFC. It's not going to be easy to submit a guy like that. And I know that he has an insane squeeze, but it's like squeezing a guy with no neck, you're just not going to choke him out. And we're talking about a guy in Volkanovski that regularly trains with Craig Jones, one of the best BJJ practitioners in the world. So I'm not really worried about Volkanovski getting subbed in this fight. I do feel like he's going to lose more of the minutes as long as they're on the ground, but he'll probably win some minutes while they're on the feet, is how this fight's going to play out. I just don't see anyone getting finished in this fight. And I know a lot of people are on the unders in this fight. I feel like we're going the distance. I feel like we're going to have a competitive fight. And I feel like Islam's probably going to win it. But I'm not picking a side here. I'm just going to take the fight goes the distance.
I do not hate that either. I have a play on. I don't know if I'm going to ladder this, but I took Islam, the same parlay at the DraftKings side, Islam and over 1.5 rounds at minus 175. Cut that line down. I'm with you. And one thing, just to add to your point, it must be noted we are in the bigger cage. So I don't think that favors Islam. He can't corner him. And I also think, look, man, it's a title fight. Like, look, there's a feeling out process in these things. But my last prop is also on this fight, and it goes a little bit against yours. And my reasoning is dumb. I just don't care. Fight to end in round 5 is plus 1,400. And I'm telling you right now, this has nothing to do with Makhachev. This has nothing to do with Volk. We had 3 title fights last year, and in the 5th round.
Yep.
And we had and shit, Glover almost like pulled one off. Like once he got the takedown in the 5th against Jamal Hill. The only reasoning I have here is I got to assume that Islam is he's going to be the minute winner. He's going to get some takedowns here. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's not getting the subs. He's going to be winning the minutes. If it comes down to where Volk needs to throw an absolute bomb to win in the 5th, he's more than capable of having the cardio to be like, all right, fuck it, let's go. Or, by that point, he's just death gassed because Islam's been riding his back for 18 minutes. So, it's a fun way to play the main event. I do think Islam decision is the preferred bet. It's the most likely outcome for me. But, if you're up at that point, a little sprinkle on the plus 1,400. And, yeah. So
Why not?
Here comes your best bet, and it is on the Prado Malarkey fight. And
Yeah, but before that, I want to just say one more point on the DFS side. At 9,500, Lou, I don't think Islam Makhachev is a great play on DraftKings. And I do think he's going to win. I just feel like we're going to have a pretty competitive fight where Volkanovski does win some of the minutes on the feet. And, I mean, Islam is going to rack up some takedowns and control time. I just don't know if he's going to be able to cover 9,500. Even though he's going 5 rounds, he might lose some of this fight, Lou. So I don't think – I feel like fading the main event is a good strategy here.
So Monk, when we talk about this, so he does salary voodoo, and he always says how he hates the 9,600 salary because of what they have to do to cover it.
Yeah.
not only am I with you on like I mean, his ownership's going to be ridiculous because everybody wants to play the main event, and I understand that. But I mean, he still has to get on a lineup on a slate like this where it's a lot of favorites that are staggered, like reasonably priced guys that have good finish equity at like 9,100. Like I didn't mention Clemson Rodriguez. I may put him in every goddamn lineup I do because
I
I think
like it.
he's just going to absolutely murder Ross, and he's reasonably priced. I'll take him cheaper than Makhachev, who even if he gets takedowns, he might get one around. He may not throw any strikes. I mean, it may be position over submission. I could see a case where he gets 4 takedowns, he gets a decision win, and all of a sudden you're looking at like 110 points out of him, which like I don't think it's going to cut it on this card. Do you?
No, I don't. I feel like there's going to be people that outscore him, and not only that, Islam's ownership is going to be so crazy to where like
Ridiculous.
it might put you on bad lineups just because you have Islam in your lineup, if you know what I'm saying. So I wouldn't want to play Islam on this slate, and I do think he's going to win. I just don't know if he's going to cover his salary. His salary is out of this world.
How do you feel about roster and Volka's salary relief? If you like
Uh,
it to go to decision, that means he's got an okay floor.
if you need the salary relief to make your lineup work, then yes, I do like rostering Volkanovski, but you should be aware that like he might also lose. You're just hoping he scores enough with significant strikes, maybe some reversals, sweeps, knockdowns, a little bit of control time against the cage. Whatever he can get, you need some points out of him still, even though he's cheap. But like that could save you some salary, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if he could get you 40 in a loss, like you'd thrilled,
Yeah, as long as you
but
get 5 other winners, yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously you're not trying to like I'm debating if I want to put him in the Iron Man and like just go like fucking balls to the wall like some of
If
these
you
higher
like the
guys.
rest of your lineup, I feel like playing Volkanovski is not a bad idea because I see this fight going pretty long. I don't think Volkanovski is just going to get run over here.
No. And there's like, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to use the stars and scrubs approach in like a single entry, but it's a really tricky card in the sense that like it's tricky that I feel like the lineups almost build themselves with like kind of who you
Mhm.
want out of each tier, where it's like, fuck, do I have to get the like
Yeah.
Modescus? Like, and then you don't feel like you're different than anybody else. But speaking of, before we get to your pick, this isn't a prop, but I wanted to ask you, do you have any feeling about the Pedro Bukowskis fight? Because I have a preferred way I recommend betting it, but it almost goes against the eye test for me.
I mean, I'm never one to advocate for betting Pedro, so I'm not the right one to ask, but betting, I don't know what your angle is here in betting this fight. I was just going to avoid it to see if Bukowskis has actually gotten any better, but I'm never one to try to back Pedro, especially a chalk. Like that's not the type of plays that I make. So, I mean,
No, I
but you
mean,
could tell me your betting angle.
well, I'm never betting Pedro at this number, and
Exactly.
Liam had like a really good point when we were talking that like this is his average line in 6 fights in the UFC is like this minus 230 range, and he's 3-3. So like you've been betting on him every time, you're losing money.
Hmm.
And all his wins are in the first round. So to me, I want to look at the number live after one and see if it's a numbers play. If I get plus 500 or better on Bukowskis after
Oh,
one,
okay.
then maybe I take a poke at it. And look, if he gets blown out, then you don't lose a penny. Like it's all right.
Yeah.
And but I don't want any part of Pedro. And I think he's going to be a popular guy this week too, because he's like a hometown boy, round one equity. But man, I think fading him or like at least underweight to the field completely can get you far in a GPP this week.
This is the one reason I don't want live scoring in MMA because if we have live scoring, it completely ruins live
I don't.
betting.
Yeah, I don't want it either. I don't
Of
want it
course,
either.
yeah. So it's like last week, people were still getting Devin Clark after he won the first round. They were still getting Devin Clark at like plus 200. It made no sense. A lot of people hit that and they cashed out.
Yeah. All right.
You want
Let's
it?
hear the preferred expert play on the Prado Malarkey fight.
Alrighty. Well, I mean, you already said you hated it, Lou, but I'm going to explain why I like it. So I like the under 2.5 rounds in the Prado Malarkey fight. I feel like Malarkey is that type of killer be killed fighter, and he is pretty durable. So there is a little bit of worry there, but Prado's also finished 10 out of his 11 fights. So I'm not that worried. And I feel like people are saying Malarkey has fought the better level of competition, but has he really? I mean, you were talking about it earlier. I mean, Kama Worthy, Devontae Smith, these were guys that didn't even really belong in the UFC. We thought Devontae Smith was a lot better than he really was, and he showed over time that he clearly isn't that guy and didn't belong.
He's going to
And
win. He might win a Super Bowl on Sunday though. So that's that's a nice consolation prize.
That is pretty cool. You know, he might win the Super Bowl. He might be the MVP. Who knows? But anyway, getting back to that, I feel like this fight can finish in both sides of this fight. And I talk about this a lot in spaces about how if you're betting an underdog or even a favorite, it could work both ways. It depends on what the numbers are like. But like, let's say you're betting an underdog. So I'm getting plus 215. I bet Prado at plus 215 for 1 unit, right, Lou? So I bet it was minus 145 for the under 2.5. So I bet 1.45 units to hit the 1 unit to cover the Prado bet, right? So I'm covering myself on both sides of this fight. Let's say Malarkey gets that finish. I'm covering my Prado bet because I'm not losing anything on this fight if that happens. The only way I'm losing both ways is if Malarkey wins a decision. And it can happen, yes, but I don't see much equity here. I feel like someone's getting finished in this fight. It's going to happen before the 2.5 rounds comes to fruition. And there's a chance I even cash both of these tickets, Lou. So
Of course.
I really like the fact that I could cover myself from the minus 145 under and bet. I'm pretty much free rolling Prado in my mind because I don't think we're going to decision here. I really feel like the under's cashing. And if Prado wins, great. If he doesn't, I'm covered. And I like
Well,
that, you know. In
I hope
MMA, it works a lot for me.
I hope Prado steamrolls him in like 9 seconds. But I respect the even like I said, there's just something instinctually where I'm like that's holding me back from it. But it clearly, when you look at it, like when you look at the line, you're like, oh my God, this looks like a smash spot. Like I totally understand it. It's just it may, and I might be overthinking, but these are the tweaks I'm making in my system. But I like the approach you're doing with the balance of how much you're betting on the under versus the Prado bet. And I think anybody listening, like that is a very smart way to approach that because like Malarkey does have decision equity, but again, we don't know what Prado's going to look like in the third round. Like he might be okay. He's 20 years old, man. Every time I was going to have no cardio. Look, man, he's 20. He better have cardio at 20 years old. Like, come on.
I would hope so.
Well, we have reached my favorite bet, my favorite stupid, ridiculous bet of the program, and that is the Yambag special where we are betting on a fight to have a point deduction. Would you like to go first? I tweeted mine out before because I'm just a ridiculous human being and I felt like I needed to tweet it. But I have a feeling we didn't talk about this for the show. I get the impression we may have the same one. Please go ahead.
I'm going to go. So to get a point deducted?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go Justin Taffa and Parker Porter. No way. No.
Do you want to give any rationale? Oh, I posted this hours ago. Do you want to give any rationale behind it or
see it. I swear to
God. I know.
I mean, like, doesn't this just scream eye poke like point deduction? Isn't that what it just screams to you, Lou? Just looking at this slate, I mean, I feel like if there was a point deduction, it were to be in that fight. It could happen in any fight, obviously. You never know what ref is going to be reffing. And, like, you know how Mark Smith decided to not take a point in one fight last week, and then he decided to take a point later?
For the cage grab against Kinoshita, I had the Yambags in that one, too. I'm like, oh, my God, dude, he literally grabbed it. I know, these guys are just the fucking worst, man.
Mark Smith's an idiot.
So I have the same play. There is a science to this that Uncle Weezy and I have cooked up in the MMA Engine laboratories. This has two things for me that I love. It has Parker Porter. So, like, he's an auto. Like, anybody with, like, sloppy technique. Like, you're talking about eye pokes? Absolutely. But there's something else that's important here, too, statistically. This is Southpaw versus Orthodox. And I always love targeting these for Yambag shot. The stances are open. Those ball shots are there. I bet you never thought this would be something you're talking about on YouTube like months ago. You're like, oh, cool. I'm going to go talk about like dudes getting hit in the junk. It's not a clam bag shot, at least. But I mean, Porter, like, look, he's probably, if he doesn't get knocked out in 2-3 minutes, I'm not betting this fight in terms of like, I may bet the split decision here and the draw. Like, this may be the fight where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna, like, here's $20. I'm just gonna have fun. I'm gonna bet nonsense. And if the draw, if the like, I mean, Taffa could 10-8 him in the first, and Porter could win the next 2 rounds. Like, I could make a case for a draw.
You could double cash it if you bet the point deduction and the draw.
Well, it's called I have a name for it. It's called the draw bags. So you bet the draw bags here. I wish you could same game parlay them because you'd get like plus 50,000 odds.
Yeah.
But you know, when Porter's gonna, if he closes distance to go for takedowns, Taffa's, look, he's still relatively inexperienced. He's raw. There's no reason he can't grab the cage on a takedown attempt. He's probably not going to know what to do off his back. I mean, there's a lot of ways when you get two guys that are really like unrefined and sloppy technique. Like, this is where I love attacking that spot. Like, you're never doing it. Like, I don't care if Islam Makhachev has like 3-point deductions in a row, like in 3 fights. I'm never betting his fight to have one because like the narrative doesn't make sense. But 2 slobs that are awful, I like, sign me up. The only thing you worry about here is like if Taffa knocks him out in 45 seconds, like, you know. So I want to ask you here a trivia question. There's only one. These are always 20-1 odds. There's one time a fight was not 20-1 for Yambag. It was 18-1, and I'm pretty sure I moved the market. It was a heavyweight fight. You want to take a guess? Can you name one of the fighters in it?
A heavyweight fight for a Yambag where like there was a point deduction. Chase Sherman.
No, like it was plus 18. I'm saying it was plus 1800, not plus 2000. Like the number actually came down because of what an asshole one of the fighters was. There's your big hint.
Oh my god, I know it, but I can't remember his name.
He's not in the UFC anymore.
I know I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name. Just tell me.
Greg Hardy.
Yeah, of course.
It was Hardy and Tybura, and Tybura beat him in like 4 minutes. So like I didn't get time because look, man, I don't know if he uses the inhaler or if I'm getting a point.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, shit, he was creative. So maybe I could have gotten some cool stuff. But anybody watching this, guys, thank you for hanging in. Breaking down a pay-per-view card. I'm really glad that my guy Shark came on here. If you're not following him on Twitter, yeah, just pick winners is the best way to go. Obviously, we know this. If you're not following him on Twitter, please do. He's great for DFS advice. He's also pretty goddamn funny, even though he won't say that. I will say it. He plays poker. If you like the poker, I'm sure he's happy to talk to you about his cash games down there. Tell the people what you're up to. Tell them what spaces you're going to be in, and then I'll sign us off.
Yeah, so me and VB, we work for pickcity.com, and we sell our plays on that website. I don't really promote it that much just because, like, I don't really care that much about selling my plays to people. I care more about beating the bookies. So, like, as long as I'm making sure that my process is still making me profitable, that's really the main thing that I care about. But as far as our spaces goes, we do spaces like every Sunday after the event, or it's either Sunday or Monday. We'll do like a recap, and then we'll talk about the next upcoming card on the following Wednesday normally. So we didn't do it today. I think we'll do a spaces tomorrow. It just depends on the day. As long as you're on Twitter, you'll look at the top of your feed. If you're seeing our spaces live, you should definitely at least come check it out. It's free information. We just try to workshop fights. We're not charging anyone anything, and they can always come in and give their own opinions. Everyone's allowed a mic as long as you're not just some, type of troll that's in the chat or like requesting a mic and then like coming in there moaning or doing some dumb shit, As far as like shout outs go, I'd like to, shout out my guy Lou. That's all.
All right. I want to bring something up too, because you said about like you don't really care about the promotion, you care about just processing information in spaces. Today was a perfect example of I woke up this morning. I didn't have like a really good feel on a lot of spots I liked in this card. It was really like I just had some like a lot of doubt, or some of these numbers just didn't stand out to me. And then I did a couple of shows, and I know that like people listen to the spaces and they watch these shows to get, our opinions. But I think what people don't realize is like it helps me to do the shows. Like it probably helps you a little bit too. Like just talking to like other people in the space. Like Narco is one of my like people I love talking to. Like he sees things from a different angle. Like, and same with Tim. Like they see things from a different angle than me. But it's not like overwhelming information. It's like, okay, why? Like, I want to know why he's on the other side. Like, what are you seeing that I don't? And then just having that, like, it kind of, as I'm talking it out on these, I don't do spaces because I'm like in my 40s and I still have to figure out how to do it. Like, I know how to listen to it. I think I got to only do it on the phone. But I love talking out the fights with, like, like I did it with Liam today, with Gordo, like my guy Aaron, like just like some of my guys that I talk to, figuring out like where I want to go. And then I start feeling better and better about the spot. So I hope it helps you too. I imagine it has to a little bit, like, if you refuse to listen to anybody, like, you're never learning. And I don't know if I like that, but
Yeah,
I
we
love
go
the
in those spaces and then we bounce the ideas off each other. We try to learn from each other. There's no egos involved. Like, there's been times where I'm on the opposites. Like, let's say I'm picking someone differently from whoever you're picking. Like, we just talk about it. We see what we see on, or we say what we see on tape, and then we just go from there. I mean, we're not trying to, like, say that, oh, you suck at gambling and you don't know what you're talking about. Like, we don't do that. That's toxic. We're trying to bounce ideas off each other and workshop fights.
Yeah,
It's us
kinda,
versus the bookies.
yeah. I mean, we're all just trying to get money, man. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm not here to, like, promote anything except, like, I just want to dive in a bunch of coins like Scrooge McDuck. Like, that's all I want to do.
Yeah, that's all I
So,
want.
well, guys, thank you for watching the program. We both appreciate it. Good luck on your bets this weekend, and tune in next week for another episode. I have no idea who my guest is. I literally have no idea who my guest is next week, so I can't even promote the show. It may be me dressed in drag. At this point, I'm not certain. But take care, guys, and I'll see you next week for another episode for Santos versus Blanchfield.